In the next hour, we are going to talk a bit more about the project timeline and the division of duties and communication. Probably now I will repeat some of the things that I already said, but that is actually my mission, to actually provide you with some the information that it can be applicable for you in the upcoming period when you will be working on improving your project management practice. How actually our usual format look like? This is the typical presentation of the project action plan or timeline, or the Gantogram, as you wish to call it, as it usually presented in project proposals. For the purpose of the better visibility, I just used the example of 6 months, but it's usually 12 months or even longer period of time. So what we have here activities listed, and then the marked fields of their implementation in particular months. So some activities will be just like, for example, in this example, implemented in first 2 months and then they are done. Some of them will start later on. Some of them will be like activity 6, implemented over the whole duration of the project. That depends from activity to activity. However, usually our project proposals are incorporating mainly information at the action level, meaning mainly information at the level of just activity implementation. And when we start with the implementation of the projects, we are focused on that. What we are missing is again these preparatory tasks that should be conducted in advance, either at the level before even project starts, either in the first months of the project implementation. So these are some overall project management tasks, preparatory actions, tasks related with the procurement, visibility, monitoring, this development of the document system that is important for the reporting, and so on and so on. Some of these bullet points that I mentioned here can be done at the overall level of the management of the organization, meaning they should be done even before some project starts, because they are important for all projects. And some of them should be done definitely in the first quarter of the project implementation. So just a little bit more about those key tasks. So in overall, what our project management needs to include some monthly and quarterly planning. And this will be definitely needed also at the level of the project implementation. And this is not a request by the donor. So we need to meet with the project team at least once in the month. We need to organize meeting with our project partners at least once in the quarter. So that's definitely something that is needed at the operative level. We need to keep contacts with some stakeholders and so on. So usually this is not like a separate project activity described in the proposal. We need to set up some standards in our work, meaning that for each meeting we have invitation letter, we have agenda, we have list of participants, and definitely we have meeting minutes. One of the very often missing documents to prove that, for example, some team member was participating or doing some work is like meeting minutes from the meetings with stakeholders, partners, or regular team meetings, and so on. And it's not something that now for example, donor or donor representative is really eager to actually read and learn about work. It should be something that will serve for us as a reminder what was discussed, what was actually agreed, and it should be, of course, reviewed at the next meeting and so on. In relation to overall project management, important part of the work is monitoring of the cash flow. And this is very much important on the in implementation of the projects, and especially of EU-funded projects. And I will tell you why very, very soon. So some other key tasks concerning the preparation of the activities include also meetings with experts and preparation of some maybe materials and so on. For the procurement now, we already discussed a lot, from actually defining what we want to buy and conducting market research to check where we are and how idea is actually realistic and what we have to adopt in the whole process. And when we talk about the visibility, again, usually we talk about visibility as a part of some campaign or some events, forgetting importance that visibility should be present in all our documents, that all team members, including hired experts, should be aware of it, etc., etc. You could notice that I have some template on which I'm giving you this presentation, and this template is prepared by the organization that actually has hired me. So they set up the standards, what should be on the first slide, how other slides should look like, and so on, how their memo should look like, etc. In all others involved in the work of that project should use those standards. Very often that is missing. Very often we have presentations from the training events not adopted to the visibility of the particular project, for example. Further on, I have now a few more slides which are actually in detail explaining more situation according to division of the timeline per quarters, just to be easier. So we have some activities, as I already mentioned, as a pre-start, like establishing the management system to know how the decision making would look like. So what are the decisions that are made by the, for example, executive director, and what are the decisions that can be made by project manager or finance manager or assistant, etc. How via filing and storing the documents, time that we invest in relations with partners, and definitely decision and ensuring the project funding. So very, very, very often challenge in finalizing the project implementation is actually closing of the financial construction of the project. Even in a situation when donor is giving to us 80 or 90% of the funding needed, we have a problem to ensure the rest of 10% or 15% and so on. And why is that a problem? Because we think we can resolve it later on. how to say, it's natural for everything. We think, well, if we can do it later, that would be okay. But then it's a problem because I tend to say that, you know, that time is passing and invoices are coming faster than we are actually earning the money. You know, when you have to pay, then the deadline is shorter than when you have to actually receive the money. What is actually the point of everything that I'm saying is to introduce you with the work that has to be done, no matter we are having some project implementation or not. Something that we can do even we do not have some project at the moment, and something that is part of our system that we continuously improving. Another thing, it's related how the work is divided per quarters. So here is example of the project of 12 months. And I made this with a purpose, just to show it to you how actually that is the legal time for some project implementation. However, usually we are restricted that maybe it can be 12 months, maybe 18 months or up to 2 years. Rarely, only really large grants are having opportunity to be implemented, for example, for more than 2 years or 3-4 years, and so on. Very often we think that 12 months is a perfect timing and that we can do a lot. And then we find ourselves in the situation that we lost already 6 months, and then we just conducted a few meetings and maybe 1 or 2 workshops. What should be our priority at the beginning of the project implementation to ensure that activities are going smoothly? This relates with the first quarter, practically starting from the first day. And also it relates very much when we sign the contract, but we are waiting that funds come. And we might wait for the funds for 1 month or month and a half, according to some rules of the donors, depending from donor to the donor. What is donor saying to us? Doesn't matter. You sign the contract, you have to start with the implementation of your activities. So don't wait money to be capable to start. So what we have to do? We have to design activities for the first month and especially for the first quarter to do lots of things that we do not need so huge quantity of the money for the beginning, meaning we can rely on our resources. And what is that? It's part of the preparation work, which is important for the successful implementation of the activities. So we will be setting the team, preparing the team to start to work. We will then dedicate time to selection of participants. This is the time when we have to prepare procurement process and also implement as much as possible of the procurement process. This is definitely the time when we should design our communication strategy and to actually define the visibility of our project. So why is that important? For the procurement, it's important if you do it at the beginning and you failed, you have to repeat it. You still have lots of time. Instead, when you are doing in the last quarter or in the even third quarter, and then you have to repeat it, and then you have to renovate the premises and buy equipment and set up, and then you have a problem very often. That's very often problem with when we have renovations and equipping, that at the end of the project implementation, we have a lovely space for some, let's say, community center, but it's not operative. or it was not operative during the lifetime of the project, because instead of doing that work at the beginning, we put that later on, we had the delays, and we actually didn't work with the target group in that center. For the visibility, it's important because the visibility, it's not only some poster, banner, or I don't know, promo video. It's also our basic memo that we should start to use from the beginning of the process as soon as possible. Further on, in development of the implementation of project activities, we will be, of course, focused on the actual execution of the activities, but also including everything that was already prepared. We will be then smoothly collecting information for the monitoring, documentation for the reporting. We will continue to work with the partners. We will continue to monitor the cash flow. Why is that important? Can someone share that with me? What do you think? So, what is the catch with the cash flow? The catch is because in some excellent cases, you immediately receive a grant from the donor in the full amount as it was envisaged by the contract. However, in some other cases, and that is always the cases when you have larger grants, you're not receiving all the funds immediately. You receive some portion of the funds. For example, for first 12 months, and your project is for, let's say, 18 months. That means after the 12 months, you are actually preparing some progress report. And then donor is reviewing that report. And then donor is saying, oh, I have additional questions, or please submit additional documentation. And that is eating our time. And we are nervous because we are waiting another portion of the funds to continue with activities. Very often, then we stuck with the implementation if we did not ensure funds and if we did not count to ensure the cash flow in that process. Usually, how the things are functioning, how our contracts for grants are looking for, they're already part of the tender documentation of the calls for proposals. And then we can check that there. And we should to know how to actually ensure and plan that cash flow. Very often, this is a huge problem for projects lasting for more than 12 months, and especially for EU-funded projects. If we did not ensure the funds for the project implementation at the beginning, if we are not taking care of ensuring them immediately after the start and monitoring the cash flow, we might have certain problems at a certain moment of the project implementation. Is that clear to you?
Yes, I believe it is so. In some situation, it is good to actually plan the cash flow in advance to be able to meet the demands for payments.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Dimitar. So what I have tendency that I stuck on one slide and talk a lot, and even I actually put that in the number of the slides here. So I will not now actually repeating them. I'm apologizing, hoping that you could follow me through this actually the table. But anyhow, it will serve as later on, since you will receive this presentation now after we finish with the first day of the training, just to see whether I missed something. But I think that we actually said more or less what was planned. If we have project that is under implementation for 12 months, then the last quarter is the craziest for us. Why? That is the reason why I actually put this message here for you. Because then you have to put lots of things in the closing phase, but you have this mess because of the lots of delays and something that you were supposed to do in the second quarter, you are now doing in the fourth quarter and so on. If you see that you will have problems with actually respecting the deadlines, then check with the donor. Usually it's possible to extend the time needed for your implementation. Keep in mind the deadlines, yes, they are important, but keep in mind that it's also very much important the quality of your work, and especially the quality of the services that you are providing to your target group. So if needed, ask for the extension of the project implementation to allow time to work with the target group in the newly renovated premises.